There was a woman who was in my very first parenting class, and I ran into her like 2 years later, and she said, "This was the most profound thing when you told me to ask my daughter why." And I tell people all the time because it's so simple and it changed our relationship. It's important to ask your kids why because they need for you guys together to be investigators in order for them to figure these things out on their own. And as the parent, you're collecting the data so that you can better understand your child, so you can better support your child, so you can figure out what really caused them to act inappropriately instead of just being mad at them, because there's a feeling that has not been addressed. And when you address that feeling, then the bad behavior disappears because it's no longer something they're swirling with on their own. The first transition is when kids become verbal, right? Or some way of communicating. So whether it's sign language or words, you now have a partner in figuring out what's up. But behavior is a little more complicated. So, for example, when a kid does something that is out of the ordinary, the natural reaction of parents is to be mad about it, but not to be curious about it. So if this is out of the ordinary, why is this happening? And as a kidtuitive, I'm thinking this through, right? Okay. Sometimes we know it's they're tired, right? That's step one for parents to be able to figure out. Why is my kid acting like this? This is out of the ordinary. This is crabby. This is mean. This is whatever. Oh, they slept terribly last night. That's probably the reason. But eventually we want to be able to ask them why. So if now your kid is 3, 4, 5 and their vocabulary has grown and they can say so many more things to you, well, when they hit a kid at the park, when they get in trouble at school, when they run off when you ask them to stop, and these are not part of their everyday experiences, you got to get curious, right? It's not because they're a jerk, right? Sometimes we get mad or embarrassed, right? We're embarrassed that they did this in public or they did this in front of another parent, and we forget to figure out why it happened in the first place. But when we ask a child, why did that happen earlier? What do you think? They will tell you. A lot of times they'll tell you, which no one has thought about before. I'm not sure why, right? We just have this communication. First I did everything for you. Now we're doing everything together. But I'm going to help figure out the meaning behind this. What we're used to for whys is what parents used to do for whys, which is, why did you do that? Which does not allow children to be curious and think about the reaction, right? It's defensive. They're not going to think about it. They're going to say, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. They're going to try to end this negative interaction. We want a why of I wonder why that happened. What was going on? When something happens at school that's out of the ordinary, maybe a teacher is mad or another kid is mad. But when we talk to a kid and ask them what happened, it's usually the result of what happened before that. So why were you under your desk when your teacher told you not to? And it's because this person just hurt my feelings. Or I just tripped and I was so embarrassed. I was so mad at myself. And the more we have these conversations, then the easier it is for kids to talk about things that are hard. So not everyone easily says I felt embarrassed, right? But when they know they can say that and it's safe, then it becomes easier and easier to talk about it. And you want your kids to know everything is talkable in our house. Everything. We can put words to everything and figure it out. Nothing's off limits here. So it depends on the age and the situation. And this is sometimes for small things, wondering why they always choose something or why something is hard for them. Okay, those together. Why is it so hard for a kid to choose a candy bar when they get to choose at Walgreens, right? For some kids, it's oh, that's easy. I love Kit Kats. I'm going to have one of those. For other kids, they're frozen. And you want to kind of talk to them about why that is. Usually it's there's a fear about making the wrong decision and having to live with that regret. And so they are stuck with indecision. But if we're not talking about it, they just stay stuck. I think part of it is that if we ask why because there is fear of trouble, we don't get answers. So if you're asking why while you're mad, they're not giving you a why. They're just trying to end this situation. So if you threw something that seems like, why would you throw that, right? That question can be in your head, but the way we want to talk to them about it is like, hey, that's not really where that belongs. I wonder why you threw it instead of bringing it downstairs. Or like trying to figure it out together. Like, I don't want to go to grandma's. You have to go to grandma's, right? What if you just wonder with them? Well, how come you don't want to go there, right? Which is another way of asking why. How come? What is it that you don't like? Now you get the feedback that helps you like prepare them or help them say no, right? Maybe they don't have to go. Maybe that is too big of an issue for this moment. But without that data, we don't have enough to guide them. Like someone came to the house and you ran downstairs and hid under a table. Now, the normal parent reaction would be like, get up here, like you're embarrassing me. That's not how we act towards guests, right? But what I want people to do is say, why the heck would that have happened? Right? Like, how do we get curious about this? This is out of the ordinary for my child. Why are they having such a strong reaction to this visitor or this day? And so that when you bring it up to them and say, you know, I'm kind of wondering why you did that, and they don't feel like they're in trouble, then you get some information, you get the data that helps put the pieces together for you instead of just being mad at them for acting inappropriately, because that's not how you're supposed to act when guests come over. True, that is true. So how come this time you acted totally off the wall? Not because you're bad, right? So what is it? And then you don't have to be as mad at your kids. Okay, so we were at my sister-in-law's house and my son told me, I hate you, which has pretty much never happened and had no merit in this situation, right? So the normal reaction parents have is to get mad, embarrassed, defensive. But I was curious, why the heck would he say that? So when we got in the car, this is when he is really great at diffusing situations. So when I said, hey, we need to address what happened in there. And he said, address it. Why? Are you a letter carrier, a mailman? Like, why would we need to address this? And he's very talented at using humor for these things. But together, I did need to figure out why. Like, this is not something my child says to me. This is not something that feels good to him. We were not in a fight. Like, you know, it was not like I said something that he was mad about. And so we had to explore together what was stirred up inside of him. Like, it's not really about me. You're saying, I hate you to me, but you're not mad at me in this moment. I don't know what this is about. So together we'll figure out, okay, like you have this trip coming up you're nervous about, or, you know, summer school is starting and you have feelings, or you have this play date and you're not sure that this kid likes you. Like, all of these things create bad behavior elsewhere. But if we don't figure it out with them, if we don't have them asking themselves why, we don't get to the bottom of it. And there's so much relief. There is so much relief to a child when they can talk about it and figure it out and say it. Because the problem is not between me and him. The problem is somewhere else. I'm getting dragged into it. But I'm the grown-up, so it's my job to solve it with him.